managers at aacc. Today we're going to talk about CSX practitioner, the CSX program as a whole, but specifically we're going to talk about practitioner and what it means for all of you guys and gals who may be in the actual cybersecurity field. Is anyone here currently in cybersecurity or works with computers at all? What do you guys do?
I'm actually here at the college. I teach. I'm an instructional specialist in the cybersecurity department.
Awesome.
Security engineer manager, Jamel was just sharing.
Fantastic. Security engineers.
Information security system administrator at State Brown.
Awesome. Were there any hands over here?
Information security administrator, traditional.
Perfect. So I'm really excited about your input. After this, I look forward to discussing everything with you guys. Who here is familiar with aacc? All right. So for those who are and those who aren't, aacc is coming up on its 50th anniversary, a bunch of information system auditing throughout the past. Over the last few years specifically, however, we've started developing a cybersecurity program, a new cybersecurity certification. We're going to discuss pretty much all the specific aspects of that today and how it kind of fits in the whole of making a holistic cybersecurity practitioner, someone who is new to the field, in this instance, relatively new to the field, or even a few years in and wants to get more hands-on experience, a certification that actually applies to their everyday work. That's what we're going to do here, that's what we're going to discuss, and that's what we're going to show you as we pretty much move on. All right, so our agenda today, we're going to talk about what the CSX advantage is for everyone who may be in the field or isn't in the field. I'm going to give you guys a lab. You're going to need to walk through one of the CSX labs specifically, get a hands-on experience, see how it differs from other labs that you may be presented with and other types of experiences with learning. And then we're going to talk about the CSX training series as a whole, so you can understand what we're actually going for here, how we're trying to create a holistic experience for individuals who are actually in the cybersecurity field. All right, so for those of you who are in the field, you may understand, you may see, when you take a look at it, everything that's offered today, that there's a lot of different aspects and different stovepipes for specific, we'll say, parts of a whole, right? You have different certifications, different degrees, different programs, everything's saying they're going to get you this big cybersecurity dream in the sky, right? So, take me for example. I've taken several of EC Council's offerings, technical classes. I've taken a master's program in cybersecurity. I've done a couple other certification programs as well that are in the realm of IT, none of which really talk to each other, right? They're all great when you look at them on their own. They're all great when you apply them as parts, but there's no single program out there that says, here's a holistic view born out of NIST, NICE, CSF framework requirements that actually speaks to the need that is growing right now. Now, before I keep going, does everyone know what NIST, NICE, and the cybersecurity framework is? All right, so what we've done is we've taken the requirements and security controls, built JTA's requirements out of those, right? Because we see that these are the agreed upon ideals that are going to guide us in the future of cybersecurity. These are the roles, these are the tasks, these are the things that have been identified by NIST and cybersecurity professionals that say, hey, this is what you need in order to understand cybersecurity. These are what's needed in the field today in order to meet the demand, right? Out of that, we took all the different aspects and made a technical experience, a 60% solution, not 60% solution, 60% lab-based aspect, 40% slide experience, right? Because we understand that if you just have a smattering of labs, no one really enjoys death by PowerPoint, right? So we've intentionally made an experience, and it's growing every day, by the way, where you're spending the majority of your time in a lab. Now, who can tell me the big concerns when I start talking about labs? Anyone who's ever worked in a lab environment before, what are the things that you're most concerned about? I'll put one out there, functionality, right? Previously, in other lab environments, you're dependent upon a series of different variables, right? To make sure that they all work so that you can actually have an experience that will provide you some kind of learning, some kind of understanding. They either have to be set up on site, or they have to be brought in, or they have to be set up remotely in a fashion that function appropriately, right? And they're all done on a case-by-case basis. In this instance, what we've created for the students, you guys, in this instance, right? We've created an experience where you can log into these labs at any time, anywhere, where you have an internet connection and take them. You don't have to worry about setup. You don't have to worry about tear down. You don't have to worry about functionality. It's great. It's like going to those pottery classes, right? Where you can go, you can make a mess, you can make art, okay, and leave. Someone's already set it up for you. Someone's going to clean up after you, and you come back a week later and you've got your little, like, kind of vase, right? That's what mine looks like. I'm like, if you put flowers in from the side, it's art. At least that's what I told my wife. Now, we haven't gone on that date since, but whatever. This is similar, okay? What we want you to get out of this training is not a 2-hour experience of how can I set up this demo tool, right? This trial account with this fake email so that I can try out a tool that is going to be limited for maybe an hour, right? And I'll be honest, it can take over an hour to set these things up. And just to try and do the lab, what do you get? Instead of getting a nice 2-hour lab where you learn how to conduct some kind of task such as instant response, right? And identification of threats, you get a 2-hour lab on trying to set things up to make sure they work that right way sometimes, okay? We've taken that all out for you. You log in, the lab's there, you can do the lab, you can learn the concepts. You might hear the term tool agnostic go around. I prefer to say we're tool non-committal as it goes. We are in this to make sure you understand the key concepts of cybersecurity. I understand, and everyone else who made this, that when you show up on site, what do you have absolutely no control over when you start a new job? What tools are going to be implemented, right? One shop may use Nmap, another might use HPing, another might use some proprietary tool that never saw the light of day because they bought the rights of it and they said, this is how we shall scan henceforth, right? What we make sure is that you understand how to scan. What we make sure is that you know how to debug, okay? What we make sure is you know how to analyze packets. I don't care what tool you're using, you'll understand the concepts, thus making it a much more intuitive experience. Now I'm trying to share these lessons. I'll give you an example. For me, I literally fell backwards into this field. And if you don't believe me, I'll tell you, my degree, my bachelor's degree, is in English, all right? And not just English, it's film as literature. That is not cybersecurity, friends. I'm pretty sure we can all say right now, that's not cyber. And yet here I stand before you. And it was a very twisty-turvy path. I freaked out and said, oh no, I need to get an applicable degree because I found myself in the field of cyber, which back in 2008, it was all at the different government sites. So I thought, how can I remedy this? Or this was 2006 rather. How can I remedy this? I'll get a master's while I'm working for the government in government. Do you think that taught me cybersecurity? No. I can honestly say that I got this whole other degree that didn't apply. Now, thankfully, since then, I got the cybersecurity one, so my papers are in order, and I got the certs, so we're okay. I would not wish that experience on anyone, all right? I sat down on my first day in the cyber world knowing how 3 applications worked, right? And one of them was Word, and the other was Outlook. I thought I knew how Excel worked until people were showing me all the crazy kung fu that goes into Excel, and they're like, this is how we predicted the budget for like 8 different companies on 4 different planets at one time by using this equation. It's like looking into the eyes of God, right? What we're creating is something where you have an interest, you have some familiarity, okay? You've dabbled around, you're a hobbyist, you're an enthusiast, or you just found yourself in this line of work, or you're studying at the school. We're presenting it to you, okay? We're making it as accessible as possible in the most appropriate way possible so you don't have to waste your time on requirements that are not dictated, right? That are just pulled out of thin air. Cyber, we all agree now, is no longer just a series of tubes. Cyber is a real thing. Cyber is something that, it's a career field, it's a path, it's a way forward. People can make their whole life's career out of cyber at this point. We want to guide people in that right direction. And that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about a holistic approach. We have here at aacc, CSX, we have career management. We show you where you can start all the way to where you can go when you want to retire. We're starting with CSX practitioner is out. That's for everyone who's baseline up to 5 years in. We're putting out specialists later this year, which specializes in the specific domains that you're learning in P, so you can get a better flavor for it, better taste. And then we have expert. An expert, by the way, is not the end-all be-all. Expert is a nice blend that's coming. We're actually taking case studies where you can then say, hey, I've learned all this up to this point. I probably could have helped company A, which I will not mention while being webcast, or company B, were they in that situation again. All right? And keeping in mind also, by the way, then if you want to go even further, aacc has all of the, they have CISLM, they have CISA, they have all of the auditing certifications for you as well. If then, when you get higher in that management experience, you want to move forward from there. We have conferences every year that are pretty fun, but impartial, right? Where we talk about a lot of the current topics, such as what's happening with PII, okay? How's it leaking? How's it changing? What's altered, okay? What is the best approach to take to IDS, IPS from one person's perspective? What can we come to an agreement? Things like that. Some really great presentations, so a lot of fun. I recommend you take a look at it. We have a ton of research and publications that we've been building over the last 50 years. You want to see a serious, just huge library of white papers? Check out our site. Guidance, we've built everything off the guidance that's available, all right? Both international ISOs, right, and federally national here in the US with this nice frameworks. All right, let's move forward. Something I'm really excited about, just because I've been, killing myself over the search for the last year and a half. We just got SE Magazine's 2016 Certification Program of the Year award. All right, so people from SE Magazine came, took a look, evaluated the program, took the exam, and said, "Hey, we like this. This is our certification program of the year." Is anyone here familiar with SE Magazine? All right, so you know that that's one of the touchstones for the industry right there. As I mentioned earlier, we have skills-based training within a live environment. As you'll see, all these systems are in the cloud. They're up and running. You can access them anytime. What I'm really excited about is all of our exams are built using performance score. What is performance score? Well, let me ask you, does anyone here have their pilot's license? Me either. But does anyone here have a driver's license? A lot of us, right? When you took that driver's license exam, did you just fill out a bunch of questions? I didn't. I don't know if you guys did. If you did, point me to your GMB, right? You had to go, you had to get in your car, and you had to go through a course. Some would call it an obstacle course, right? Almost. There were a lot of obstacles from my perspective. But you had to prove that you could actually drive a car. You couldn't just answer a lot of facts, fun facts about the car. That's what the learner's permit test is for, right? You couldn't just say, yeah, no, I know that when it rains it will be slippery, so I'm ready for my license. Okay? You had to prove that you could do it. We've integrated performance score. What performance score is, it's our live evaluation system that our partner has created at Comtech. What it does is you're in a real environment with real attacks, with real compromises occurring all at once. This is your evaluation. You're not going to a Pearson View Center, sitting down and filling out bubbles. You are going to a testing center, right? But unlike any other exam out there, it's not, and even with other exams, this is not emulated. This is a real system, a real network, real attacks happening, based upon how you perform in that environment. And we acknowledge there's more than one way to solve a lot of these problems, all right? That's how your grade is calculated, okay? You perform in the environment, you go through a series of tasks. It's like, oh no, this is compromised. Hey, what's leaking out of this port? That's bad, stop it. Things like that, right? And as you go, after every single issue, your grade is issued at the end. That is great, right? I'll tell you why I get really excited about that. As I told you, I showed up on day one knowing how 2.5 Microsoft applications worked, okay? Anyone who's gone through this experience can show up on day one at, say, a NOC or a ROC or a TOC or wherever, at whatever company or whatever government organization, knowing they've at least saved one network, okay, in real time. They've been able to handle incidents as they were happening. They were able to recover from those disasters after they occurred, all right? They were able to save the day at least once, okay? And if they go to specialists, so that they can have more, they can do more. And that they were graded and deemed, hey, you did it, you succeeded. Students enter the job knowing confidently that they performed. Complete alignment with the NIST cybersecurity frameworks. As I mentioned earlier, this wasn't born in a vacuum. A lot of training today has a bunch of people that sit down and go, cyber. Yes, cyber. We will say the computers and then teach, right? No, we know that there's actual guidance available, and we leverage that guidance along with several experts, and everything was born from that. As you take our classes, you'll see up front which requirements that these courses speak to, as well as what security controls from the NIST documents are applied, all right? It's exciting stuff. Increased professional credibility and earning potential, something I've neglected to mention up until this point. If you do look up aacc online, you'll see that they have, it's either 3 or 4 of the 5 highest earning certifications available. Meaning that if you have that CISM or CISA, you're earning more than people with other certifications. So we bring that experience to the table. We understand that no one wants to take these certs. No one wants to get this training unless it makes a tangible difference for them and their family. All right? That's what you're getting here. We map to 8570 and the developing 8140 requirements, as well as CSC, COVID-5, ISA, and ISO requirements and guidance. As I discussed, we ensure that students who graduate or get their certification have the knowledge, skills, and ability to perform in cyber jobs. All right, any questions before I keep going on with the slides? All right, we have a few more slides and then we're going to jump into the lab. All right, so how was this born? For those of you who are familiar with the NIST cybersecurity framework, there are 5 very important domains when you talk about cybersecurity. We're working counterclockwise here. Identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. All right? You identify what's on your system, or in a lot of instances, what systems you have. Who's heard of turnover? All right? Who's been a victim of no turnover? I have. The worst, one of the more horrifying feelings I ever had is when I showed up to a work site and they said, yeah, Bill's got the Nmap for you, or the NetMap for you. He left, so he quit, but it's around here. You think there was a NetMap? No, there was nothing. I had no idea what I was looking at. I had no idea what the network looked like. I couldn't even tell you, not alone what threats were there, but what assets we owned, okay? So identification of not just threats and vulnerabilities, but let's start with assets, which can then end in a gateway to the threats or vulnerabilities. But we understand, knowing what assets you have, crucial. That hits home for me. Protect. Protection of systems from outside threats. We then move, after you've identified all your assets, you have to protect them. Now, who here is an oracle and can see the future? Not me. I'm pretty, unless you are, then tell me on the sly after this, all right? I got a few predictions I need. You can't predict what's going to happen to a network. You can't predict what threats are going to be there. But there are common sense steps that you can take in order to protect your network, right? There are repositories. Threat repository, NVD's got it, right? National Vulnerability Database. There are all these repositories of threats. Everything that you can protect your network from. You can take the common sense steps to protect yourself from that. And we show you how to harden your network in this domain. We show you how to set everything up for you, protect it. Detect. Now, as I just said, none of us can predict the future. So sooner or later, we're all going to prove that we get to stay in business because there's always a new threat. People are always throwing those statistics out there. My favorite was the other day where they're like, over 1 million new viruses are born every day. And I was like, that's a lot. Who's doing that? I have to think that's coordinated. Something's wrong. So I'm a little hesitant to be like, hey guys, 1 million new, all right? But there's new threats all the time coming out from everywhere, right? You can't predict them. You just have to hope you can detect them. This is where we get in. My favorite thing I like to discuss for students here is we'll play a game of event or incident, okay? The difference on whether something that's happening on a network should be happening or whether it shouldn't be happening, okay? Whether it's an event worth flagging, say a small time event, somebody actually sent an email hypothetically to an email address that doesn't exist, so they got a kickback. Maybe a little flag popped up, just an event. Now maybe somebody sent in an email full of encrypted data that includes all the bank records. That's an event, or that's an incident, a negative event. Or maybe an exploit was installed in the system and now it's spewing everything out this random port. That's a horrifying incident for me, okay? Detecting those and and knowing when they're occurring and when they're not occurring, huge. All right, respond. Now that the worst has happened, now that the horrifying has happened, how do you respond to that? What do you shut down, right? It's like stop the presses, shut it all down, pull all the cords out. That would be a terrible day. But we show you the appropriate ways to respond to those. What steps you can take if, say, you have this type of compromise. How do you respond to that? And at the end of the day, there's probably going to be at least a little bit of damage. How do you recover your network back to functionality? How do you ensure that all your business assets and so forth are up and running? And not just that, but protected. Also, you can then identify what's left and go through it again, right? That's the cycle. That's the whole experience that we bring you through. Our training is broken up into each of those 5 domains. In this instance, I'll take a quick note to say, specifically with CSXP, we have 2 types of offerings. We have a very comprehensive 3-week offering where there's over 40 labs and slides to go with them, where it takes about 3 weeks for the student to go through, and they get the comprehensive experience going into the actual exam. Now, great for certain situations, people who have the time, certain academia, etc. Who here has a full-time job? Right? It's very hard with a full-time job to be able to make that kind of commitment. So we also have a 1-week boot camp that we offer as well. Right? We've identified the most crucial and linchpin of the labs, give context and so forth, as well as the slides, and we teach those. And we also make available other learning assets as well. The whole goal that we have here is to instill in everybody who goes through CSX a different type of lifestyle, right? I don't want you to just come and go through CSXP and call it a day. We give 6 months of access to the labs. We do that on purpose. We want you to be able to not just go through the labs, because, and I always get this, how do you best prepare for the exam? Understand the labs and the concepts therein and how to perform those tests, right? But more importantly, we've given you a little arena to play around in, all right? Who hates setting up a bunch of different VMware systems just to try something out? And next thing you know, the whole Saturday's gone, and Saturday afternoon, whatever, is gone, and you're like, man, just so I could try and configure this tool to get it to work. I've been there. It's terrible. I hate it, all right? Know who else hates it? My family. They get very angry because the weekends are family time. In this instance, we've given you guys a complete playground to play around in, right? Because, and as you'll see with the lab, once you shut it down, it just breaks down, and then it builds back up later and breaks down again. You'd have to try incredibly hard to break this. I say that because I don't exclude impossibilities, but I haven't seen anyone break it yet. That is not a challenge. All right? All of a sudden, we get a call from the server, somebody broke it. So, but that's what we're creating for you. We're creating a lifestyle, right? And CSX is continually evolving. CSX and the cybersecurity nexus, we're going to be that point for you guys to be able to grow. All right, build and practice skills within real-world scenarios in a virtual cyber lab environment. This is a sneak peek at what's coming up. We don't just throw you to the wolves. You're not just logging in remotely to a system. We've got everything laid out in an orderly fashion for you. You'll see we've got the steps at the top, the bottom, and the side where students can actually work, where they can actually try things out. We have everything built off a real-world scenario, right? Tools that you will have access to in the real world. A lot of our tools are open source, okay? Almost all of our tools are open source, in fact. So, specifically with CSXP, there's only one that isn't. You'll have access to all of these tools in the real world. The entire exam can be done with open source tools, all right? Everything is there for you, readily available things. You'll see. All right, as you mentioned, specifically the labs, they are always on, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter where you are. As long as you have an internet connection, good to go. Accessible, as we said, anywhere. The one that I love, self-paced, okay? So whether you're taking this online, all right, through a virtual training session, whether you're taking this through a self-paced experience, or whether you're taking this through a boot camp, okay? You can always access the labs. You can always pace yourself later. They're always there for you. Applicable. Relevant thought leadership in multiple industries. aacc has leveraged the entire brain trust for this, okay? We have over 140,000 constituents at aacc, and all of them work in the IT field, okay? From CTOs down to SOC hands-on keyboard guys, okay? Current with NIST guidelines in the US, as well as global standards outside of the US. All right, we mentioned CSX Practitioner, launched last year, named SC Magazine's best certification, winning against top competitors to include ISC Squared CISSP. As I mentioned, first credential in our performance-based certification series. We still have S coming up, and we have E coming up. Globally offered and designed for security professionals. No matter where you are, you can take this. Measures to the ability to perform and handle tasks in real time. I can't emphasize that enough, all right? This is not a question and answer based experience. You will prove that you have the capabilities for your potential hiring organizations or for your organization that has hired you. CSX Practitioner certification demonstrates that a professional is proficient and capable in the first responder space because you have been a first responder. As I mentioned, here is the CSX layout as it stands now. We have P that's already out. We have the 3 classes, 1 exam, or we have the boot camp, which is 1 week. The audience is specifically security professionals such as analysts, benefit manager specialists, IT professionals new to the field, or upper level bachelor's program students in cybersecurity programs, or master students. All right, 3 unique week-long courses conducted in an adaptive performance-based cyber lab. Long story short, as I mentioned, 3-week class, 3 distinct components, all domain-based, and all of them are adaptive. All right, CSXS, that's for individuals who have been in the field a little bit longer, as I mentioned, and then CSXE, that is for our expert level individuals. Both are slated to come out in 2006. Oh, sorry, 2016, 2006. All right, if you have any questions, that's a little difficult to read. You can either go to our website, which is cybersecurity.aacc.org, or you can email Tabitha Flax, tflax@aacc.org, and I will write those up on the board after I pause the stream as we get ready for the lab. All right, we will be right back.